Now, before we move anywhere at all, let us be honest in the room. Some of you are here tonight feeling numb, unmotivated, spiritually stuck, and if the truth were told, a little ashamed of it. You have said to yourself, "Something is wrong with me. I'm failing. I've lost my faith." And already the mind has begun its prosecution. Now mark this well. We are not going to cooperate with that prosecution. We are not going to deny the ache. You feel it, and I hear it. But we are going to refuse the verdict. Do you see that? When you say, "I feel empty," let us not condemn it. Let us locate it. Where is this emptiness? Is it in God? No. Is it in the life that is life itself? No. Then where? It is, in a sense, in a feeling tone of a personal I that has been accustomed to being fed by stimulation, praise, plans, and the next spiritual thrill. And when that diet is withdrawn, when old nourishment no longer works, that personal I calls it emptiness and cries failure. But, and here comes that terrible, terrible word, but what if that emptiness is not the mark of your collapse? What if it is the loosening of a costume that no longer fits you? What if it is the transition in which the little I begins to fade, so that the presence which is ever present can be consciously known? Do you see how different that is? Please hear me. The personal I cannot hold the presence. The presence holds you. Therefore, as the light presses upon you, the hand of the little I opens, and in its opening, it imagines it has lost everything. It names that unclenching emptiness. That is why some of you, who were once very certain and very lively in your spiritual opinions, now feel as if the floor has dropped away. It has not. The scaffolding is going. The ground is still there. Now don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. We are not romanticizing misery. We are discerning what is happening. Do you see that? Let us be very plain. The separate me you have carried, its histories, its successes and shames, has been the container you tried to pour God into. It will not work. God is not poured. God is. God is ising all the time. And when the pressure of that is begins to be felt, the little container shows its seams. The sound you are hearing is not failure. It is the stitching coming loose. That sound can frighten you. It can make you want to run back to activity, to noise, to arguments about truth, to another book, another teacher, another promise. Resist that panic. We are going to learn together to stand right in that space which seems like nothing, and discover that it is not nothing. It is room. Holy room. So take a breath with me. Instead of announcing, "I am broken," begin quietly to say within yourself, "Something real is pressing forward, and the personal sense is making way." We will not explain it away, and we will not medicate it with distractions. We will locate it as the place where the little I loosens, and we will honor it as the doorway through which presence will make itself known. All right? Do you see that? All right. Now let us set a foundation that will not move under your feet. If there is God, if there is infinite being, where would there be a second space for something else to sit beside that? How could there be God and also a little private owner called me? Infinity, by its own nature, refuses a partner, refuses a rival, refuses even a neighbor. Infinity fills itself. Therefore, the only honest way we can speak is not God and you, but God as you. Not God somewhere and you later, but God is, and the recognition of that is breaks upon consciousness as I am. Do you see that? Now, last night we took up 3 words: as, is, am. Keep them before you because they will save you from a great deal of confusion. God as is the mode of expression, God as tree, God as body, God as mind, God as universe. God is the fact, the being, the unalterable fullness that does not move in and out of time. And then, in the moment of recognition, I am. Not the boasting of a personal ego, but the disclosure that this life you are calling me is the place of God's appearing. As, is, am. Say it inwardly and feel how it straightens the spine of your understanding. Is that right? Take an object in your hand. There is not glass and a tumbler. There is glass formed as a tumbler. There is not mahogany and a table. There is mahogany shaped as a table. The substance and the form are not 2 substances, not 2 lives. In the same way, there is not God and you. There is God expressed as you. Therefore, for God to be infinite, your real identity must be the presence of that infinity individualized, not a private proprietorship, not a separated spark struggling to get back to a distant sun, but the sun itself revealing one ray here and another there. Do you follow? Now mark this well, because it will spare you grief. Individuality remains. Proprietorship fades. Expression remains. Separation dissolves. The notes are distinct. The music is one. You will still answer to your name. You will still bake your bread and write your letters and raise your children. But the inner claimant, the one that says, my life, my light, my plan, begins to release its grip. The instrument remains. The imagined little musician retires. And that is where some of you are trembling. The throne you carved for the private I is being reclaimed by its rightful king. Presence. The private monarch calls that dethronement emptiness. It moans, I have lost. It has lost nothing. It has been relieved. But, and here comes that terrible, terrible word. But, while the sense is fading, it can feel like hollowness, like aimlessness, like the middle country of the prodigal, where the old food no longer feeds and the true feast has not yet been recognized. Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. This is not a judgment upon you. It is a description of a transition in consciousness. As, is, am will carry you through it. Sit quietly with it now and again. God as, God is, therefore I am. Let that simple, holy sequence unseat the claimant and reveal the one who has been your life from the beginning. Do you see that? Now take the prodigal and bring him right into your lap. Not as a boy in another century, but as the story of your consciousness. We went out into a far country, which is only a way of saying we set up a life on the sense of personal selfhood. I will have my own life. I will have my excitement. I will have my certainty. I will have my control. And for a season, it pays what looks like dividends: stimulation, applause, plans to make and conquer, even spiritual plans to become a brighter and better me. But mark this well, that treasury is not infinite. It spends itself. It always does. The account that seems so flush in youth, control, excitement, certainty, begins to show a balance that will not meet the check. And Scripture is sober in its description. There arose a famine in that land. Do you see that? The famine is not in God. The famine is in that land, the far country of self-ownership. And when the famine comes, it announces itself in you as emptiness. Not yet home, mind you, not yet resting in the Father's embrace as realized presence, but already unable to be satisfied by the husks that once seemed food. This is the middle country. Between the first heat of self and the cool home of spirit is a plain of quiet where old pleasures don't work and the true feast is not yet recognized. You look around and say, "There is nothing here." But, and here comes that terrible, terrible word, but, is it nothing, or is it the absence of noise? Is it death, or is it the dying of the claimant that kept up the racket? Do you see? There is a subtle grief in that middle country. It is the grief of losing your favorite drama. You were the hero and the villain and the critic and the audience all at once, and the show ran every night. Suddenly the marquee goes dim. The arguments that fed your sense of importance do not taste the same. The next purchase, the next romance, the next outrage on the front page refuses to deliver the old spark. And without that thunder, the quiet is accused. You are nothing. No, the quiet is not nothing. The quiet is room. The absence is not of life, it is of ego noise. The hunger is not for stimulation, it is for communion. Please hear this as a diagnosis, not a sentence. This is a stage of return. The prodigal did not perish in the middle country. He came to himself. He began to sense that the ache was not telling him to run faster after husks. It was telling him to turn. If in that moment you interpret your emptiness as failure, you will panic. And in panic, you will run backward, back to busyness, to addiction to doing, to the next workshop on winning, to solemn vows of endless self-improvement that keep the old claimant alive and miserable. And outwardly, it will look like life, because there is so much motion. Inwardly, it will be the same famine with brighter packaging. Now mark this. The middle country is holy ground, if you will let it be. Do not decorate it, do not flee it, stand in it. Let the ache do its work as a compass, not a whip. A compass points, it does not beat. The hunger is pointing you home, out of the far country of I, me, mine, into the only home there is, presence is, and therefore I am as the place of its appearing. And while your senses may still cry, but nothing is happening, understand that nothing is the curtain dropping on a play that has run too long. The feast is near. The Father's robe is nearer than your breath. Refuse the husks, refuse the panic, and you will discover that what felt like loss was only the loosening of a costume so heavy you could hardly walk. Do you see that? Now, and here comes that terrible, terrible word. But. But I'm numb. But I'm unhappy. But nothing matters. But I can't feel God. But I can't pray. But I'm afraid. All right, let us bring those buts into the light, and not let them whisper from the corners. If we are to be honest students, we must look squarely and then look through. Do you see that? First, mark this well. There are two kinds of nothing, and at first touch they can feel the same on the skin. One is the deadness that comes from fear and mental pressure, the clenched jaw, the racing thought, the inner critic sitting on your chest demanding proofs and fixes. The other is spaciousness, the quiet that comes when the ego noise drops and there is simply room. The difference is not always in the sensation. It is in the authority you grant it. The first claims you must do something now or be destroyed. The second does not command at all. It just is. Now, don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. I am not asking you to prefer one mood to another. I am asking you to discern the nature of what stands before you. Is it tyranny, or is it room? Do you see? Bring in our model of appearance in reality and watch what happens. Your feelings are weather. Your consciousness is sky. The storm shouts, "I am the whole." The sky does not argue. It remains. Rail tracks appear to meet in the distance. They do not. The horizon appears to end the ocean. It does not. The blue appears to lie on the mountain. It does not. In the same way, numbness appears to be a verdict on your life. It is not. It is a picture, a passing suggestion, weather across a vastness that is not touched by it. If you enthrone the mood, you will obey it. If you see it as weather, you will let it pass. Is that right? But I can't feel God. I know that line. Feeling is not the measure of God. Being is. God is eyesing whether you feel or not. But I can't pray. Very good. Then the false praying, the begging and bargaining has fallen away. Let the silence be prayer. But I'm flat. Who says so? The mind that has fed you on spikes and dips. When it cannot keep you in pleasure, it will attempt to keep you in despair. Why? Because either way, your attention stays glued to a personal me and its storyline. Pleasure shouts, "Me." Despair shouts, "Me." Spacious quiet does not shout at all. And to the claimant, that silence looks like annihilation. It isn't. It is liberation from a racket. So what do? We do not condemn. We discern. We do not dramatize. We notice. When the but arises, "But I'm afraid, but nothing matters," ask quietly, is this a law or an appearance? Has this mood a God-ordained power, a cause, a law that can compel spirit? There could be none, and there is none. Therefore, I will not grant it authority. I will stand as sky and let this weather move. And as you do, a subtle recognition begins. The space that felt like nothing is actually holy room. Presence is not absent. The chatter is. Abide there a moment longer than the mind demands you leave, and you will discover you have not fallen into emptiness. Emptiness has fallen out of you. Do you see that? Now let us take up what, in this work, we call the nature of error. Mark this well, because this is going to spare you months and years of circling. Error has no law. In an infinity, there is no second power, no rival presence, no parallel authority running alongside God to bind you up. Therefore, anything that presents itself as doom, "You are empty and you will remain empty," can have no divine authorization, no cause, no spiritual continuity. It is a picture in thought, an appearance in consciousness, a hypnotic suggestion lacking law. Do you see that? Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. We are not denying that you feel what you feel. The weather can be fierce. The sky does not deny the storm. It refuses to call the storm the sky. We are not denying your human experience. We are denying its claim to be a spiritual reality with jurisdiction over your life. There is a world of difference. The ache can be observed. It need not be enthroned. Now watch how the mind tries to manufacture law where there is none. This will never change. That is the tone of inevitability, as if a judge has spoken. Who appointed that judge? I'm always like this. Always? Show me the statute book. My childhood caused it. Causes belong to law. Where is the divine law that decrees that the past can imprison the present realization of God? My chemistry caused it. Does God share sovereignty with a beaker? Do you see what the mind is doing? It takes a passing configuration of thought, memory, and sensation and stamps it with the seal of forever. And then we bow to the stamp as if it were God. Bring in our foundation. God is. Fullness is. Life is. Presence is. Therefore, the only honest question is never, how do I repair a broken me? But always, how do I return to awareness of presence? Because in the light of presence, pictures yield. In the warmth of is, ice forms of thought relax. You cannot hammer a mirage into water, or legislate the horizon off the ocean. You see through it by knowing what is. In just that way, you do not argue your emptiness into joy. You rest in the fact of God until the picture loses your belief. All right, now mark this well. If you make emptiness a power, you will bow to it. You will consult it. You will check with it before you pray, before you love, before you step. And bowing, you bind yourself. If you see it as appearance, you can rest through it. You can sit quietly and say, there is no law to this. There is no God-ordained cause establishing its permanence. God is eyesing here as life, as peace, as sufficiency. As God is, I am the place of that appearing. Then you stop granting it your signature. You refrain from dramatizing. You refuse the mental oaths of always and never. You let presence have its way. And as you do, very gently, sometimes without fanfare, you discover what you were meant to discover. The so-called sentence was only a script you had been reciting. When you put down the script and sit in the living room of God, the play ends by itself. The sky remains, the storm passes, and fullness, never absent, comes forward to your recognition. Do you see that? Now, if you have followed me thus far, the next step is going to feel like a relief. You have been tempted to say, God, fill me. God, give me something. God, take this emptiness away. All right, mark this well. The very posture of asking to be filled keeps you in the dream of being a separate container. If God is infinite, where would God find a bucket outside of himself to pour into? There is not God and you. There is God expressed as you. Therefore, petitionary prayer, begging for fullness later, assumes a God who withholds and a you who lacks. Both assumptions collapse under the weight of is. Do you see that? Now don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. I am not scolding your instinct to pray. I am redirecting it to its only fruitful form, communion. We want nothing of God but the joy of communion. God is not withholding anything, and therefore God can't give you anything. God just is. God is ising all the time. Prayer, then, is not a lever to move a reluctant deity. It is the consent to be still until the already present fullness announces itself as the very fact of your being. But I can't do that when I feel empty. Precisely. And that can't is your doorway. Emptiness is often the moment you are least able to perform prayer. And that is the perfect time to discover that prayer is not performance. It is not word carpentry, not mood management, not fireworks. Abiding is non-doing. It is rest. It is the laying down of the tools and the letting of presence be presence. Do you see why this is hopeful? You are not trying to manufacture God. You are consenting to what already is. So what does this look like in the room where you sit? It looks like closing the search for a sensation and opening the heart to being. Let the demand for spiritual drama die down. Let the banners lower. If a phrase is needed, let it be simple and without bargaining. Let me sit here and abide in thy grace, abide in thy presence. Then sit. If thoughts arise, let them pass. If no feelings come, do not rake the ashes for sparks. Silence is not a failure. It is the sanctuary in which the little I loses interest in its own echoes. All right, now take the principle and give it a spine. Begin with God, not with emptiness, not with your history, not with your thermometer of moods. Begin with God. God is, God as, God is, and therefore I am the place of that appearing. Rest there. If the mind runs to fetch a feeling, gently release it. If words want to multiply, let them thin. 5 minutes like this, 2 or 3 times a day, not to get something, not to provoke a miracle, but to consent to reality. In that rest, the sense of emptiness, having no law to sustain it, starves for want of your belief and drops away. Not by conquest, by recognition. And as it drops, do not congratulate yourself. Do not run to report a result. Stay. Stay and stay and stay until you know, not as excitement, but as quiet certainty, that fullness was never absent. Then prayer has done its holy work, which is not to change God or conditions, but to reveal God where a condition seemed to be. Do you see that? Now let us give this a working form so you are not left with a beautiful phrase and no doorway. A class is a sacred, sacred, sacred undertaking, and practice is our way of honoring the sacred with our schedule. Mark this well. Stillness is not a technique to manufacture feelings. It is the consent that allows the personal I to fade so presence may be consciously recognized. Therefore, this must be simple, firm, and free of superstition. First, begin with God, always. Not with your weather report. Not with, I'm flat, I'm anxious, I'm empty. Sit, close the door of outer concern, and acknowledge, quietly, without embroidery, God is. God as, God is. Infinity here. Not arriving, not improving, is. Let that be the first and the only subject for a few breaths. Do you see that? Second, recognize what is fading. Turn a soft light on the personal narrative, the little I rehearsing complaints, labels, self-history, promises, indictments. See it as you would watch clouds slip by. No wrestling, no prosecuting. Acknowledge, that is the self-story losing interest. Let it pass. If it grabs your sleeve, gently release your sleeve. Third, a gentle denial. Not a fight, not analysis, a quiet refusal of authority. This sense of emptiness has no law, no cause in God, no power to bind spirit. I do not consult it. That is all. The denial is not a crowbar, it is a turning of the face to what is. Fourth, rest in a short realization. Not affirmation therapy, not mantra machinery. A recognition. Where God is, I am. What God is, I am. Let the words thin into awareness. As is and am. The mind may try to repeat them for effect. Let that go. Let the realization breathe you. Fifth, end without measurement. Do not take your pulse. Do not grade the sit. The one who checks is the claimant trying to reclaim the throne. Simply say, "Thank you." Stand and go about your next right thing. Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. The fruit is in the abiding, not in the scoreboard. Now the schedule. 2 or 3 times a day for a season. Upon waking, before the world's names take hold. Before sleep, when the day wants to write itself across your pillow. And in between, whenever the wave of emptiness hits, 30 seconds at the sink, a minute in the parked car, a pause in the hallway. Return to step 1. God is. Recognize the fading, deny the supposed law. Rest in where God is, I am, and end without checking. If you persist like this, quietly, faithfully, without drama, you will notice nothing dramatic and everything essential. The I that insisted on being fed will tire of its post, and presence, never absent, will come forward as the steady fact of your being. Is that right? Do you see that? Now let us take this from the chair to the street. It is one thing to be still in a room with the door closed. It is another when the inbox pings, the pot boils over, the child cries, and suddenly that hollow feeling slides in as if to announce, "Here is your doom." All right, mark this well. When emptiness appears in daily life, do not turn it into a headline. Treat it as a claim knocking, nothing more. It is not a guest to entertain. It is a knock you need not answer. Do you see that? So what do you do in that instant? First, one slow breath. Inhale gently. Let the exhale be longer. As you exhale, soften the jaw. Let the shoulders unhook from the ears. Let the belly loosen. Quietly say within, "Thy grace is here." Not will be, here. No fireworks, no search for a feeling. Just one simple recognition. Then, return your attention to the one thing before you. The child's face. The sentence you are writing. The dish in your hand. Presence expresses itself as order. Presence does not need your dramatic mood to do so. Is that right? Now, what not to do. Do not run to scrolling, to entertainment, to snacks you do not want, to overworking, to overtalking. Those are bids to feel something, to kick the system hard enough to generate a pulse, and they keep the claimant on the throne. You are not starving. You are detoxing from stimulation. The middle country will tell you that an extra project or an extra cookie or an extra argument will make you feel alive. It will not. It will just make the play run one more night. Close the theater. One breath. Thy grace is here. Back to the next right thing. At work, the personal self frets. Without that juice, I won't perform. Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. Efficiency is not born of adrenaline. It is born of presence. God is intelligence. God is order. God is capacity. As God is, I am the place of that appearing. Therefore, you do not need the emotional caffeine of anxiety to carry your day. You need to stop granting law to a picture. Put your hand to the task before you, one step, then the next, consenting to the quiet. Watch how solutions present without strain when you refuse to feed the drama. In parenting, in marriage, in friendship, do the same. When the flatness comes in the middle of a conversation and says, "You have nothing to give," do not believe it. Give attention. give presence. Listen. The little I wants to give performance. Presence gives itself. One breath. Soften. Thy grace is here. Let the words come from the quiet, or let silence be your clean answer. And yes, be kind to yourself without indulging the hypnosis. You can say, "This is tender for me," and at the same time refuse the oath, "I am empty, therefore I am doomed." There could be none, and there is none. Emptiness has no law. Your practice is to meet it early and meet it lightly. No drama, no escape, no authority granted. Just the calm return to what is. Keep to this in 100 small moments, and you will find your days steadied not by spurts of excitement, but by a presence that works when you are quiet and works when you are busy, because it is the worker and the work. Do you see that? Now, about depression. Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. This is sacred, sacred ground, and I will not blur it. Spiritual emptiness, as we have been describing it, the loosening of the personal I, the quieting of stimulative living, must not be confused with clinical depression, trauma responses, or medical conditions that press upon the mind and the body. Those are real human experiences, and in the human scene, they require care. If you think this teaching is a command to ignore help, you have not heard me at all. Do you see that? Mark this well. Spiritual dryness in the middle country tends to ebb and flow and still permits ordinary functioning. You can work, you can care for yourself, you can show up even if without fireworks. Depressive illness announces itself differently, a persistent, heavy duration over days and weeks, a marked inability to function, neglect of hygiene and basic self-care, sleep that is shattered or absent or oppressive, appetite gone or compulsive, a pervading hopelessness, thoughts that the world would be better without you or that you might end your life, a body slowed to a crawl or whipped into restless agitation. Add to this the aftermaths of trauma, grief that will not lift, postpartum shifts, thyroid disorders, chronic pain, medication effects. These are signals to receive care, not to white-knuckle in silence. Is that right? Therefore, here is our non-shaming guideline. If you are at risk, if you are unsafe with your thoughts, if you are thinking of harming yourself or believe you might act, your practice today is not a silent sit. Your practice today is to reach out. Call a professional, your doctor, therapist, counselor. Tell a trusted person plainly, "I am not safe." If the danger is immediate, call emergency services in your area or a crisis line and stay on the line. Do not be alone with a storm that loud. This is not failure. This is wisdom. This is humility. This is love for the temple God is expressing as you. Now bring in our foundation and see how it sanctifies responsible action. There is not God and help. There is God as help. There is not God or medicine. There is God as intelligence appearing through clinicians, through therapies, through steady hands and wise protocols. As God is, I am the place of that appearing. To receive skillful care can be your very obedience to guidance. It does not disprove presence. It is often how presence walks you across the bridge to stability so you can pray again without drowning. Do you see? Refuse the bypass. "I'll just meditate it away" can be a pious way of abandoning yourself. Prayer reveals reality. It is not a narcotic. Do not turn truth into a sedative for a system that needs stabilization. Use both hands. One hand on the rail of God is, the other dialing the number. One foot stands in communion, the other in the clinic. The same God meets you in both. And even as you accept help, keep your discernment clean. Deny law not to the physician's wisdom, but to the verdicts of shame. I am broken forever. I should be stronger. Real seekers don't need support. There could be none, and there is none. Take the appointment. Take the walk. Take the food and the rest. Take the medicine if it is given to you in wisdom. And take the quiet in small sips as you are able. In due season, when the body-mind steadies, the stillness that felt like a void will be recognized as sanctuary. So hear my heart. If you are unsafe, reach now. If you are stable but empty, abide now. In both cases, no condemnation, only a way home. Presence does not abandon its own. It guides by inner nudge and outer means until the robe is on your shoulders and the ring on your hand. Do you see that? Now let us take up the quiet proof, the signs by which you may know that what you have been consenting to in stillness is doing its holy work. Mark this well. The first proofs are not thunderclaps. They are not fireworks across your inner sky. They are gentlenesses. They are diminishings. They are less and less and less of the claimant, and more and more and more of presence. Do you see that? What will you notice? Less appetite for drama. The headlines will not yank you by the throat. The old debates will not need an audience. Fewer compulsions. The hand that used to reach automatically, for noise, for spice, for the next fix of me, finds it can pause. More honesty. You admit sooner when you are wrong. You confess quicker when you are afraid. You no longer decorate the truth to protect an image. More simplicity. The schedule trims itself. The speech grows cleaner. The need to be understood at once by everyone eases. And yes, less need to be seen as spiritual. The costume loosens. You stop auditioning for holiness. You let God be God as you, and you stop narrating it. Is that right? With these diminishings, a new kind of life comes forward, quietly. Peace without reason. Not the peace because something got fixed, but peace because being is. Clarity without strain. Not the clenched forehead and the furious pen, but an ease by which the next right thing stands up in your path and says, "Here I am." Love without bargaining. Not, "I will give if you give," but an uncalculated warmth that looks out and recognizes itself in the other. Guidance without constant thinking. Not the treadmill of analysis, but a light in the feet, a yes in the ribs, a hush that moves you and is trustworthy. As God is, I am the place of that appearing. Do you see? Now the timing. The personal I wants spectacle now. It wants a banner over the city and witnesses with cameras. Spirit unfolds as dawn, not as explosion. Shade by shade, more and more and more. You come to the end of a week and notice you were not hooked as many times. You come to the end of a month and realize that a resentment you used to feed 3 times a day simply forgot to report for duty. This is the way of presence. Steady, unhurried, sure. Therefore, be patient. Mark this well. Nothing is happening can be the evidence that the mind's noise is decreasing. When the orchestra in the pit stops overplaying, the ear believes the music has ended. It has not. The theme you could not hear for the din is emerging. Stay. Stay through the nothing. The sky is clearing. You are just not addicted to storm anymore. And stop comparing. This is vital. The path is individual. The presence is universal. Comparisons are the last refuge of the ego. She felt light. I felt nothing. He wept. I sat still. They had a vision. I washed the dishes. There is not God and a superior seeker. There is God as the life appearing where you are. Trust your unfolding. Trust your measure. Refuse the scoreboard. Keep to your abiding. Keep to the quiet refusals. Keep to the simple realizations. God as, God is, and therefore I am. In this way, without announcement, the personal I fades, and the steadier life, which was always yours, comes forward to be lived. Do you see that? Now we come to the charge. Mark this well and carry it with you. Because God is infinite, there is no second life, no second mind, no second self running alongside God. Therefore, there is not God and you. There is God expressed as you. So we have as, and we have is, and we have am. Separation is not a substance, it is a sense, and senses can fade. When the shout of the little I weakens, there is a hush, and that hush, at first, you have called emptiness. It is not a verdict, it is room. It is the gap where the old claimant used to make speeches, and in that gap, the presence, which never left, can be known. Do you see that? All right, here is the directive. Stop fighting emptiness. Stop worshiping it as if it had law. Stop explaining it to yourself and to others as if your story could turn it into substance. Use it. Use it as a bell that calls you to stillness. Each time the hollow arrives, do not make it a headline. Let it be the signal to return. One breath, God is. One soft refusal, no law to this. One short realization, as God is, I am the place of that appearing. Then proceed with the next right thing. If it visits you 50 times today, you have been given 50 bells to prayer. A class is a sacred, sacred, sacred undertaking. Your day can be too, if you keep this bell. Now our closing cue for prayer. Let it be without bargaining, without demands. Father, I seek nothing, only to abide in thy presence. Then rest. If thoughts come, let them pass as birds across a broad sky. If feelings rise or do not rise, do not consult them. Let the I soften, soften, soften. Not destroyed, relieved of its self-importance. Sit 5 minutes like this. End without measurement. Thank you. Go on. Return again. This is enough. Don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying. God is not moved by your effort. You are made still enough to notice God already here. And now the hope that is not wish, but recognition. The aim of this way is not to rebuild a more efficient ego, not to prop the claimant on a holier throne. The aim is to live as expression, God expressing as you, quietly guided, inwardly full, outwardly simple. Peace without cause, clarity without strain, love without bargaining. This is not dramatics, it is dawn. Therefore, accept your responsibility. Abide daily, meet the bell, refuse the oath of lack, consent to presence. As God is, I am. Where God is, I am. What God is, I am. And the life that seemed brittle with hunger becomes steady with enoughness, because you are no longer trying to live out of a personal reservoir. You are letting the spring live you. Is that right? Do you see that? Carry this line into your week and let it do its work. Emptiness isn't failure, it's room. Now let the presence fill what the personal self cannot.